Okay. Good morning, and thank you all for coming. My name is Jim Heisler. I'm the Fire and Emergency Services Administrator for the Washington Fire Department. In the spirit of transparency, I wanted to gather you all together today to discuss the events that happened near the Washington River yesterday. There have been some questions and concerns raised about the Washington Fire Department's response, and I wanted to make sure that we communicated effectively to ensure our citizens, neighbors, and all who visit our community that your first responders have nothing but your safety as our number one priority. Approximately 10 a.m. a westbound train derailed on the hill just north of Route 1, the main access to the Shady Pines nursing home, which houses about 120 of our community members. Based off the knowledge and experience of our first responders, many of whom have served our community for decades, it was determined that the nursing home was in a direct threat of the caustic NaOH fluid spill that was migrating towards the home. Local communities of ambulatory residents were evacuated, but the bedridden members remained in danger. Our members acted quickly and without regard for their personal safety as they utilized damming and diking methods to divert the spill away from the nursing home. Unfortunately, the diverted spill made its way to the Washington River, causing the deaths of a large number of local fish. It's important to note that while the environmental impact of our river was significant, 120 lives were saved, lives that are our family, friends, and neighbors. We will work together extensively with the EPA, local officials, and other interested parties to ensure that the river is restored to its former glory, but it is my hope as the Fire and Emergency Services Administrator that our members make life safety their number one priority on every incident. I am now happy to answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Heisler, the department is not adhering to the NFPA 1710 standard of having 4 firefighters on the first engine. Care to comment on this?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. The department recognizes that NFPA 1710 sets the minimum staffing levels at 4 members for our first responding engine. Since taking over as the administrator, grant applications and research into funding avenues have been a top priority of mine. While we've yet to be successful in being awarded any of these grants, it remains the forefront of my focus. Minimum staffing levels not only help equip our membership to provide the best service possible, but also to ease the burden of our responders themselves. Low numbers of initial responders place a strain on those that do respond and have to do more with less. We have begun discussions with our neighboring jurisdictions to collaboratively and creatively find ways of increasing our staffing levels efficiently, effectively, and economically. It's also important to note that NFPA 1710 is not a mandate but a voluntary consensus standard. Often departments nationwide only partially fund efforts to meet these standards. Even though our state has adopted the NFPA standard as a statute, we will continue to produce our annual report that highlights our deficiencies to the city and county administration in hopes that they can help us find additional avenues for staffing.
All right. Also, why did the Washington Fire Department not comply with the hazmat response law?
Again, as the Fire and Emergency Services Administrator, I acknowledge the lack of advanced or continual hazmat training that we have, but we have made great efforts in partnering with our local industry to provide these services with us. Recruit classes now, right out of the gate, are getting the minimum OSHA CFR 1910-120 standard training to the awareness and operations levels. So nationally speaking, hazmat incidents as a whole only account for about 1% of the fire department's call volume on a national level. Of that 1%, only 50%, about 50% only deal with what are called small quantities, so less than 55 gallons of a hazardous material, and that's according to a 2018 NFPA report. So basically what that means for us is the juice is not essentially worth the squeeze. We're not going to put a lot of money into funding efforts for something that is so remote and so specialized when it comes to the community protection. However, we have opened up advanced lines of communication with our local county hazmat teams to ensure that they are as equipped and capable to respond to our community for instances such as this.
Okay. Why did the fire department personnel enter the hot zone without HAZWOPER training?
It's a great question. Thank you very much. So OSHA 29 CFR 1910-120 requires an initial amount of training of 24 hours to workers that would generally handle hazardous materials, and that's the HAZWOPER standard. Annually, there needs to be an 8-hour refresher. The initial 24 hours, like I mentioned, is given to our members in their initial academy training, and we employ an online learning management system that will automatically assign members their annual refresher. It gives them about 6 months to complete it. As of the time this incident occurred, about half of the department had the annual refresher completed, while the others are still working on it. We base our annual training off of NFPA recommendations, not so much OSHA, because OSHA has not updated their regulations since 1989. Additionally, on top of that, we outfit every apparatus that we have with the NFPA Hazardous Materials Response Handbook to help company officers with their initial response to mitigate these events.
Okay, can you take one more question?
I sure can, thank you.
Okay. What do you have to say to the allegations that the fire department keeps elected officials and the public in the dark?
Thank you very much for that question. Again, my primary focus since taking over as administrator has been keeping us at the forefront of these grant applications with staffing shortages, as I feel, and my leadership staff feels, that that's the key to enhancing our response capabilities. It's not lost on me that our elected officials and even key players in the community have influence at the levels in which we seek this financial assistance. We've set up numerous briefings much like this one in the coming weeks with the local community groups, local, county, and state government officials, and our mutual aid partner representative. Once again, building and maintaining relationships is what I feel will lean our department into the future. So I look forward to opening the lines of communication, keeping them open, and making sure that the townspeople, our community members, our neighbors, as well as all interested parties, are as informed and up to date as possible.
Well, thank you for answering these questions.
Thank you very much.